Welcome to the Successful Home Inspector Podcast, where we discuss everything you need to know about home inspection from A to Z. Brought to you by Preston Sandlin and Home Inspection Carolina. We're here to share some success stories and some not so successful stories. Some things we can all learn from, and maybe, just maybe, we can help each other and raise the profession. So sit back, turn up the volume, and enjoy. Now, here's your host of the Successful Home Inspector Podcast, Preston Sandlin.
Are you struggling to make your home inspection business grow? Well, have I got the answer for you. HomeInspectionFlyers.com. At HomeInspectionFlyers.com, you get 5 flyers a month. There are 3 sales flyers and 2 recipe flyers. And you can customize them to exactly what you want. And these make great flyers when you go to the offices to put in their boxes, especially if you're doing like candy bowls or something along that nature. Like I said, it's 5 flyers a month for $29.99, and they're very creative, and you just put in your information. They come as a publisher file, and you just put in your information, and then you send them off to get printed. You can send them off online, and you can get color copies for less than 10 cents a copy. It's a great way to go. I went from being a 1-man home inspection firm to a 7-man home inspection firm on this one strategy alone. So try it today. HomeInspectionFlyers.com. Thanks.
Well, you guys are in for a special treat today. A good friend of mine that we're interviewing, I have seen this guy go from a one-man shop to a multi-inspector firm. I'm not even sure how many inspectors he has now, but Gary is a positive guy. Every time I've ever seen him, he's always smiling. He's always got a good positive thing to say. And I know he's going to give you a lot of gold nuggets today. He is out of Atlanta, Georgia, and like I said, he has a multi-inspector firm, and I've known him for several years. We've seen each other at conferences and whatnot. So, Gary, how you doing today?
I'm in a good mood. How are you?
Good. Gary's always in a good mood. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, because we'd like to get to know you personally.
Well, let's see. I grew up on a horse farm in Ohio, and we raised Belgian draft horses, and those are the big horses like the Clydesdales. And we showed them at the state fairs, and we trained them to work as teams. And then my parents would haul them to the Amish communities and sell them for a profit.
Oh wow!
That wasn't my idea of a career.
That sounds like work.
I've been stepped on and kicked and that sort of thing, but if I don't see another horse again, I'm fine with it. Actually, my family asked me to go on a horse ride in the North Georgia mountains, and if I could have figured out a way to bolt my laptop on that saddle, I would have done it.
I hear you.
But go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so how did you make it from the horse farm to Atlanta and into home inspection?
Well, my aspiration was to go to Clemson University, but the funds weren't there for that. So my best friend and I went to the recruitment center, and we interviewed a lot of the recruiters and the different armed forces, and so I ended up joining the Navy, and I did my 8 and hit the gate. And I got to tell you, I'm very proud that I never set foot on the ship. It was all in the aviation side of the Navy. But,
cool.
Yeah, it was really a good experience, and that led to me getting a job as a mechanic at Delta Airlines. And I did 16 years with Delta. I worked my way up into the medium levels of management. And in the meantime, on the side, I had created my home inspection company, and I would do inspections part-time, on holidays and weekends. And it was kind of a niche for me because I'd started an inspection at 4:30, 5 o'clock when, most inspection companies, they don't want to start that late.
Right.
And so that's how I came into home inspections. It was really my part-time job that kind of contributed to my personal spending money that wouldn't have a negative consequence on the family's, money there.
I hear you. Well, I'm sure you're probably, doing the mechanical stuff and whatnot with the aircraft. You're probably highly skilled and technician. Did you go to one of the schools, or did you join one of the associations or anything like that?
Well, it's so interesting. Back when I started, they had it was a video VHS series that I took, and they would send a batch of VHS tapes, and then I would watch them, and then there was a test, and they would fax me the results back, and then I would take the next series. It was really a crude way of getting introduced to the trade, but it worked at that time. Yeah.
The guy who hired me had those tapes, I think. Who do you remember the school? What was it? I can't remember.
It was out west somewhere. I don't remember, Colorado or something like that.
Yeah, I think he had those same things. Well, he would get the tapes, and then he copied them because he was too cheap to do them for each inspector he hired.
Yeah.
He had bootlegs and everything.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, my first inspection, I was so nervous, and I was trying to control those nerves so the client couldn't detect. But I still have that report, and I wonder. I think I did a pretty good job, but by today's standards, we have so much more technology available to us.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. Everybody remembers their first inspection. I remember mine, man. It was, as inspections go, it was quite a doozy because it was an old house built in the 20s, had 4 additions, 4 crawl spaces, everything you can imagine. It's the first inspection. So I guess that was kind of like, the Brian Tracy Eat That Frog or something. Like, wow, if I could handle this, I could handle it. Well, so how long have you been doing inspections? And you told us a little bit, but tell us about some of the other changes you've seen, Gary.
Well, this is our 17th year in business. Again, my first 10 years was part-time. And, with being at in the corporate world, what had happened to me, my particular company was experiencing financial stress, and that's very common in the airline industry. And so my assignment of responsibility had quadrupled in size, yet my compensation was 2 pay cuts. And so I said, you know what? I got one crack at life, and I want to maximize it. And so I came home one day, and I told my wife, I said, I'm leaving the company, and I'm going to go full-time home inspections. And she's wise. She gathered our financial planners, and they all had a meeting with me and said, why don't we just work through the holidays and revisit this idea in the spring?
Women like security, usually.
Yes. And so we did that, and I said, nothing's changed. I'm still leaving. But, for me, it was really looking before I left because, at that point I had kind of a referral-based setup, although it was part-time. But I'll never forget that first month. I think it was the 17th of the month was my first inspection, and I would just look at the phone, and I remember looking at it going, ring, just ring.
I would call the phone company to make sure there was nothing wrong with it. I'm like,
I said, "Oh my!"
There's nothing wrong with it. I'd have my friends call me. Hey, call this number. Make sure it works.
I thought to myself, when the office manager's income is exceeding that of the owner, that's a problem.
It's funny now looking back on it. And I know it hurt then, but I bet now you laugh about those days. I mean,
oh yeah.
I remember, Gary. I had to go take money out of my savings to make payroll.
Oh my!
I haven't had to do that in a long time, but I remember doing that. My wife was not happy, and I'm like, all right, if we just make it till spring, I will pay it all back, and it all worked out. But it definitely there was some times there. But it's funny you talk about the airline. I just came back from the conference, and there was ice down there, and man, there were people that were, fortunately I got out, but there were people who were there 3 days, and You know, and I guess it wasn't the airline's fault, but there was all kinds of stuff on Facebook. Somebody said one of the airline's new slogan, "We're not happy till you're not happy." that airline is a tough business. Well,
yeah.
switching gears here not really switching gears, but delving into it a little bit. This is a double question. Gary, how many inspectors do you have, and was it hard to hire that first one? And take us back there.
Well, the interesting part is we have 5 full-time inspectors now, and we're currently interviewing 2 more to add to the team.
Cool.
They actually have a more distinguished title that they wear, and I'll share with you later in the segment what that is. But
okay.
Hiring that first one, I'm just going to go to the emotion chart and share with you nervous, uncertain, and doubtful. And to be really frank with you, I was flat out scared.
I hear you. I like your honesty.
Because, inspectors, well, at least for me, I just never felt like there was somebody capable of doing the inspection in the way that I do them. And why would I take that risk and responsibility for somebody else's error?
Right.
And, it really limited the growth of my company having that mindset. And what I've learned later is there are people out there. There's so much talent out there. And there's people out there that they just want to be an inspector and not have to deal with the complexities of running a business.
Right.
And that's the secret, is to find those people.
Right. No, and it's funny you say that. I had the same thing. Nobody's going to be as good as me, and I had that mindset. And it's reinforced too, because when the referral-based calls, they got to have Gary. But you know what? After I've been doing for a long time now, honestly, there's people who work for me that are probably better inspectors than me now. And they don't ask that much from me anymore. And it kind of hurts your feelings, but then you start thinking, no, that's a good thing. That's a good thing, because Gary can't do every inspection. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I was training one of our recent inspectors, and interestingly enough, she's a female, and she's been doing HUD inspections for the last 15 years, which is considerably different from the way we do our inspections. But anyway, we received a call from the seller of that home, the home we inspected the previous day. And of course, you always cringe when sellers call, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like, you guys were just in my house yesterday, and
what doesn't work now, or
are the blinds not level, or And she said,
shower curtain's not where it was.
Right.
I've had that.
And she said, and I just want to say, of course, we're all holding our breath, how impressed I was with your company. Specifically, I think her name was Becky.
Wow.
And she said, the other guy was okay too. Well, Preston, the other guy was me.
Yeah, he was okay, but Becky was the one that was...
Right. And she said, so if it's okay, I'd like to hire you, and if I can specify Becky, that'd make me happy.
Was she training that other guy, by the way? That's good, man. That is a good story. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of leads into my next question. Gary, do you have a training process? And I know it's all different depending on their experience and whatnot, but if you hired somebody, what would kind of be your timeline for them?
Well, the way we lay it out is, we'd like to make it a rigid timeline, but for someone like Becky who's been inspecting, all we had to do was sort of tweak her in the way that we wanted her to do inspections in accordance with how the rest of our inspectors do it.
Right.
And so her inspection period was actually much more brief. And but here's how it looks typically. We want to get the academics out of the way. We don't want to be teaching inspectors in the field certain things that they should already know. So
right.
There's tons of ways to do that. Not with VHS tapes anymore, but we for us we use Nachi, and Ashley has a program in Nahi, and everybody's got a program. But we run them through that, and so we kind of run that while they're actually in the field. And
right.
so while that happens, they can interface with the inspectors. They're taking second position on the inspection, so they're not really allowed to answer technical questions and interface with the client, but they're gaining inspection. And initially I had it set for 100 inspections, and I realized, golly, that is a long time. If we can't do it in 50 inspections, then the training is flawed.
Right.
And so we reduced it to 50. But that number is not a fixed number. If it takes 60 or 70 or 40 or whatever, we continuously evaluate and make sure before that inspector goes solo, that inspector is competent and confident. And the nice thing is with a multi-inspector company, they're never on their own.
Right.
They can call me, or they can call one of the other inspectors and ask for advice. With the power of technology, they can shoot a picture and text it for a quick response. So that's how we do it. Of course, there's two pieces to that. There's the field time, but there's also the report writing, and that's what gets a lot of inspectors.
Yeah.
And later on, I'll talk about our hiring practice, but the communication, the verbal communication, but the ability to capture that information and convey it in a document called a report is critically important. And so we're really hard on capitalization and punctuation and that sort of the grammar, because the agents have really gotten spoiled by cutting and pasting into their amendment to address concerns.
Right. No, and I tell my guys all the time too. It doesn't seem like a big deal if you misspell their name, but it is, because they immediately think, well, what else has he messed up on?
Right.
Or if he's not that careful, he's not going to be careful. And I tell them, because you get, some of us aren't the best grammar people, present company included. Thank gosh there's a spell check on there. The problem with my spell check is, though, sometimes I may have spelled the word correctly, just I spelled the wrong word.
Sure.
there, two, that sort of thing. But I wanted to touch on what you said too. The great thing about the multi-inspect firm is they're never alone. We say the exact same thing. And when we have our meeting, I'm like, look, guys, there's over 100 years of combined experience in this room. I mean, that is a lot of experience. And like you said, if you see something weird, take a picture of it, snap it out. And, everybody's willing to help each other because, everybody, will help each other when they're in a bind or they go on vacation. And that's the other great thing. When you're a single-man operator, man, you can't go on vacation. I didn't go on vacation for 5 years. And now you can, and you can come back and not even miss a beat. It works that way here. I guess I'm sure it does with your company as well.
Right. Well, you can't go on vacation. You can't get hurt. You can't get sick.
Yeah.
I remember years ago when I was inspecting a loan, I just during the course of the inspection, I got sick, and there's nobody to turn to finish the inspection up. And so I excused myself. Of course, the client was with me every step of the way. I said, I'm going to go outside and check that water spigot, and I'll be right back. Well, I ran around to the side of the house and discharged on a bush.
Oh, wow!
Not knowing the client was right there with me.
Oh my goodness!
And so you talk about an embarrassing experience. He goes, oh, I'm fine. Because I got kids. I'll leave you alone.
My first thing out of my mouth would have been, I haven't been drinking. But I guess he did leave you alone after he realized.
Oh yeah. He left me well alone.
Hey, that's good. I might try that. I'm going to start calling him. Yeah, you're welcome to follow me around. But you. I think I got some sort of bug or something.
Yeah, that was a funny experience there, but. Yeah, that's the benefit of a multi-inspector firm. We're a team, and we're not only a team within ourselves, but with other inspectors in the area and contractors in the area, and inspectors from around the country.
Right. No, and that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be, Gary. Well, switching gears just a little bit, I like to try to keep it off balance. Gary, do you have a quote or a favorite quote or success quote or a quote that you really enjoy? What would be your quote?
Well, there's so many to choose from, but the one that really sticks in my head, and see if you know it, it's Ino naka no kawazu, taikai o shirazu.
I don't know it.
Don't know that one. Yeah, that's actually a Japanese proverb, and what it means is the bulldog is very content in his pond, but is unaware of the lakes, rivers, and oceans that surround him.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so that's how we can, I'm good as a single inspector. I got my rhythm. I know what I'm doing. I'm responsible for me. But the exploration of adding additional complement to your company was daunting to me, and it held me back.
Right.
And so, I was the bullfrog in that pond.
Right,
and
right.
Now as a multi-inspector firm, not only do I have inspectors, but a marketing person and a staff, and that's part of the reward of what I do is providing gainful employment for other people.
Sure. And you can go on vacation, and so can they.
And I can go on vacation.
And so can they. I hear you. Well, Gary, let's say that I am a buyer or a real estate agent in your market. There are other home inspectors in your market. I actually know several of them, and they're pretty good too. But why should I hire you? Is there something you do that others don't?
Well, I think we all have our USPs and different offerings and whatnot. But, for me, it's important that our customers and our referral sources know and routinely witness the values that we have in our company. And I think of the sign that says, how's it go? Price, quality, and service, pick any two.
Yeah, you can only have two. Right.
For me, it's about providing all of them, and I call it quality, service, and value. And these components we just bundle with integrity. And as a business owner, these are non-negotiables. This is what our customers should experience at every service. And they should be demonstrated by our office and our inspectors at every point of contact, even with our referral sources. Our customers should not know when we have a bad day. The easy to get along with customer for the afternoon inspector shouldn't be punished by the rude seller from the morning's inspection.
Right. No, I like that. That's good. I'm going to write that down. Your customers should never, how did you phrase it? Your customers should never know that you're having a bad day. Is that right?
Right. Yeah.
I like that.
And the thing of it is, we don't complain about crawl spaces, at least not to the customers.
Right.
But it's part of what we do, that we're dealing, with weather extremes and that sort of thing, and the pressures of the sale and that sort of thing. Our commitment to excellence should be clearly observed through our communication and our actions.
I like it, brother. I like it. And you know what? Crawl spaces may not be fun, but to me, they're still more fun than a cubicle. I've done time in both. I'll take crawl space over cubicle any day.
Here's the thing that we find great success with Preston is when the agents call on behalf of their clients, one of the things or the questions that we ask them is, tell us about your clients.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
And the reason we want to know that is because we have different inspectors. We want to know, are they technical? Are they prior military? Are they first-time home buyers? We had an agent recently, she said her client just went through an ugly divorce and now has a strong disty.
I was getting ready to say, I think I put Becky. Nice.
But, the other thing is we can accommodate clients who speak German, Japanese, Portuguese. We just did an inspection for a client who is an expert in sign language, and she offered to join our inspectors as needed.
Nice. That's awesome, man. I'm going to come work for you. You've sold me already. All right. Well, Gary, this next question, I'm going to switch gears on you here again. It's a double question. And I know the answer is you not riding horses, but what do you do in your spare time, and what's something most people don't know about you?
Okay, the spare time thing, I don't have any. I'm a small business owner.
Right.
But when possible, I play a game called Ultimate Frisbee.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
If you don't know what that is, it's like soccer, but you use a Frisbee. And it's just, I mean, I like team sports, and the feeling that a collection of individuals can achieve as a team is what I go for. But I will also tell you that last year I came home at 10:30 p.m. after a very long yet productive day, and I looked at my wife and I said, "I've hit the wall, and this is what it looks like."
Right.
And the expression, you can always make money, but you can't always make memories.
Right.
It was really a telling point or telling sign in my business that says, you know what, you need to scale back.
Right.
We in our subdivision, we had a young gentleman at the age of 38 had experienced a stroke, and two independent doctors came to the conclusion that his stroke was caused by work-related stress.
Wow. What do you do for a living, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't know that information, but 37 is too young for that to happen.
No kidding.
So the spare time that I have is focused on adding the right people to our team, creating as much automation that introduces efficiency while reducing the possibility of human error.
Right.
And not being afraid of trying something new and experiencing failure.
Right. Good stuff, Gary. Good stuff. And I'm with you. It's I love working because it's fun. It's not always fun, but you've got to take a vacation. And if it's getting to the point where it's never fun, you got to make some changes. You got to make some changes. Well, Gary.
I'll add the second part of your question. What do people know about me? I used to enjoy drag racing, and that was done at the track for any local listeners that may be in law enforcement.
I was I was like, please tell me the street racer type.
Yeah, I had a pretty modified Ford F-150 Lightning truck, and I was at the parts store, and a couple of guys were sitting out front, and they said, "My gosh, how fast do you have to get to these inspections?"
Cool.
But I'm actively pursuing now the purchase of what is called a powered paraglider. And if you think of a paraglider like a parachute, but imagine strapping a 70-pound motor with fan on your back and propelling yourself through the air. So,
wow. That sounds cool. I went to the beach, Gary, and I saw these guys doing the kite surf. You seen those people doing that?
Yes.
And I thought that was the coolest thing I had ever seen. And so I got back, and I was all into that, and I started researching it, and I was going to take lessons. And, man, everything I Googled a couple stories about it, and it was about, this guy gets caught in a school of sharks. And then there was something else, and it was something, and then it was then we watched that movie Soul Surfer, and I'm like, God's trying to tell me not to do this, I think. So I don't know. So anyway, I did buy a drone. That was my, that's how I'm getting in the air.
That's how you're experiencing flight. That's fine.
Yeah, if that thing crashes, it'll hurt my feelings, but it's not going to kill me.
Yeah.
Well, Gary, speaking of the unpleasant part of our business, you know as well as I do that if you do enough inspections, you're going to have an unhappy camper. How do you handle unhappy campers? Do you have a process, and what's that look like?
Oh my gosh, man, this would just kill me. We'd get all the positive testimonials, and you get that one in there that it would just destroy me. And now I've learned that it's all about the process, and complaints are sometimes generated by simple misunderstandings.
Right.
And if you think about it, all real estate transactions, all of them, involve one thing, and that's money.
Yes.
And money can bring about emotions.
Yes.
In fact, I mentioned before that we have 5 full-time inspectors, but the fact of the matter is their official titles within the company is they're emotion managers. And here's what we do with that. And I train this technique to my team. I'll give you an example. I had a client that was very difficult. He was a Class A Type A personality. Mm-hmm.
Right.
He grew up in New York and Miami, so he had both cultures there. And I hope I'm not offending anyone on the podcast here by that. But anyway, he was a high-ranking person in the a government agency. I won't name it.
Right.
And this gentleman was a very emotional guy, and you could see that emotion meter continue to rise the deeper we got in the inspection.
Right.
And they actually got in an argument with his wife, and it was very uncomfortable. And at midpoint in the inspection, I sat down on the stairs, and they came upon me and they said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm taking my break. OSHA allows me a 5-minute break every 45 minutes." And they laughed. They knew that wasn't true. And I said, let's review where we are. I said, do you remember at the beginning of the inspection we predicted we would bump into some things that during the course of the inspection?
Sure.
Yes. Well, we have. So I'll tell you what. We're halfway through the inspection. Let's see what else the rest of the house has to offer.
Right. Right.
And you know what? That's all they needed was a little break. An intermission to gather their thoughts, and we finished the inspection. We found some additional things, but in the end, they were emotionally stable. They ended up buying the house. In fact, the agent called me towards the end of the inspection. She said, "How's the inspection going?" I said, "Good." She goes, "No, really, tell me the truth." I said, "It is good." She goes, "Gary," I said, "the guy invited me over for cigars after he closes."
Wow.
So the secret there is being able to read that emotion, respond to that emotion, react to it, and because it's a very stressful thing, and there's a lot of decisions, a lot of moving components and people that the buyers have to depend upon, and that sort of thing. So emotion manager is what I call my team.
No, I like it. And I like what you said that there's one common denominator, it's money, and money evokes emotion. I want to add something else to that. I like exactly what you said. I had college psychology way back, and there's some things I don't remember much about college, but I do remember this. We were studying like the 5 top things that cause stress to people. And I remember number 1 was death of a child, which is awful, obviously. But anyway, within the top 5 was a new job, new baby, new town, divorce, or something. Anyway, but it dawned on me that when I got into this business, usually somebody buying a house is going through probably 2 of those life's most stressful things. A new job, new house, divorce, new child, something like that. So, in buying a house isn't much. So you've got, just this perfect storm for emotions combined with the money. So, people are highly emotional, and you're right. You've just got to set expectations, I think, and calm them down sometimes because, that train can run off the track if you're not careful.
Sure.
Well, Gary, we're going to get into some highs and lows and some times when you failed and some times maybe that you made it. But first, let's take a pause for a sponsor.
Well, I'll admit this probably doesn't have much to do with home inspection, but it will help me pay for this podcast. If you're in need of anything to hang on the wall along the lines of art, go to PrestonSandlin.com. Check it out. You can click on there if you're interested, and it takes you to Fine Art America, some of the stuff I've done. And you can have all kinds of things, phone case covers, all different size art things. So if you're looking for a gift or something like that, you like this podcast, they'll help me pay for this podcast. That would be awesome. And if you can prove to me that you bought something from it and I see you at a conference or something, I'll buy you an adult beverage. Thanks a lot.
Well, we are back here with Gary Sloan from Atlanta, Georgia, and he is dropping gold nuggets all over the place. And we've got a couple more questions, and I really appreciate his time, and I know all the listeners do too. Well, Gary, tell us about a time when you failed. Take us there, and what you learned from it.
Well, let's see. When I failed, that's probably not one that I'd like to talk about, but let me think of one. Let's see. I'll tell you one. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, or maybe when things, didn't turn out as well as and if you could do it again differently, you would, that sort of thing,
Well, I'll tell you, one of my inspectors did an inspection recently, and he sent the report out, but he didn't include the radon results. And a few days later, when one of us fail, we all fail. And a few days later, the client, the buyer's agent called and said, "Hey, where's the radon results?" So I pulled it up and looked, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I think we had an internal oversight. Your client paid for that service, and we want to get a radon unit out there." And he said, "Well," he said, the due diligence has expired. So I wrote him some correspondence as well as his client, and I apologized, and I said, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and do the radon test, and in the event that it fails, we will absorb the cost of a radon mitigation system."
Good man, good man.
And so here's what happened. We kept our fingers crossed for 48 hours.
That's what I'm saying. That was my next question. I was going to ask.
And the probability of it passing was certainly higher than not.
Sure.
And of course, it came back with elevated radon.
Oh.
And and so we got to buy a radon mitigation system.
How much was it?
It set us back $1,600.
Well, though, I mean, that was a classy thing you did, though. And if that agent doesn't use you now, shame on them, because you stepped up to the plate big time.
Well, here's what happened. It led to some other internal checks and balances, so that wouldn't be apt to happen again. Of course, the inspector felt bad, and we stand behind our inspectors when they make mistakes. We're going to stand behind them and do the right thing for the benefit of the client. Sure. And the client's happy. Both agents are wildly impressed, and now both agents are referring us to their clients, and we booked the inspection for the seller.
Absolutely. Well, and that's a classic example of turning a bad situation into an opportunity, and that's awesome that you stepped up to the plate. And you know what? They don't even know how big you stepped up to the plate, because say if you would have tested it and it came back positive, that seller did not have to fix it. I mean, you know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, you fixed everybody's problem, and man, good for you, man. Good for you. Good for you.
Well,
I hate that it had to happen that way, but
well, nobody, we certainly didn't like writing that check. But, that's the cost of doing business. Those things are going to happen.
Sure.
And so, the customer, who said it? Was it Damon Richards that said your customer doesn't care how much you know until they know how much you care?
Right. No, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, on the other end of the spectrum, I said I made it moment. I don't like that, though, because I think we're all a work in progress. But how about I've come a long way moment? Have you had that moment where you're just sit back and say, wow, come a long way?
Actually, it hit a couple of years ago, and my family and I booked a Disney cruise to the Bahamas.
Nice.
And everything was handled for us. There were no pressures. The only decisions we had to make were menu and activity selections. And I'll tell you, Disney flat out does it right. I just remember before stepping on the ship, we saw 2 rows of staff
dressed in their white uniforms, standing at attention, and the officer in charge announced something to the effect of, "The staff of the Disney Dream finds it an honor in welcoming the Sloan family to our family."
Nice. That's smart, man.
And I turned to my wife. I said, "Are we paying extra for this?"
That is pretty cool. Did y'all go to the Disney Island too?
We did, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
You know,
yeah.
the other appeal to all of that was there was no outside communications.
Yes, and you can't get internet out there on the water, and it drives you crazy at first, but then you're thinking, that's probably a good thing.
And here's what happened. I came back. My staff debriefed me on the events that took place, but they demonstrated how well they handled everything during my absence. And it was then that I realized, Preston, I now have a business, and to me it's defined as one that runs when the owner is not present.
Right. Before you had a job, you owned a job. Now you own a business. No, I hear you. Hey, I hate to be the bearer of this, but we've been on a Disney cruise and I love it. But if you go on another type of cruise, it's going to be like, oh, man, this is not as good as Disney. Because I'm with you. Disney does it right. I mean, I thought when I went on that thing, I'm like, this is going to be a bunch of kids. And I mean, I have kids, but I'm just like, oh, no, man, Disney does a great job. Great job.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lot to be learned from us business owners. That stuff like Disney does, that's classy. Welcome to Sloan family, How can I incorporate that into my business?
Yeah, maybe we'll start doing that in inspections.
Yeah, welcome to things. Well, Gary, do you have I know you're a successful guy, so I'm bound to think you've read some books on the subject. Do you have a favorite book you'd recommend to our listeners, and what is it about the book that you like?
Let's see. One I'd probably recommend was recommended to me by one of my colleagues it's called Crucial Conversations. That's the title. It's Tools for Talking When the Stakes Are High. I think that's the title. Okay. And the author is Carrie Patterson. Last time I checked, it had over 700 reviews on Amazon, and 4.5 I think is what it rated at. But in the book, he defines crucial conversations as those where number one, the stakes are high, 2, the opinions vary, and 3, emotions run strong.
Right.
And doesn't that sound like the definition of a home inspection?
Absolutely. I was thinking that when you were saying it. I was like, damn, that sounds like our job every day, doesn't it? Nice.
So it's a $12 book, well worth a read, and there's a lot of golden nuggets in that, I'll tell you.
Cool. I might make, or you know what, like you just said, that is just like a home inspection. I'm gonna look at that and maybe break that down for our staff or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like
sure.
That would, we have meetings. Maybe we go 2 or 3 chapters each meeting or something.
That's a good idea.
No, it's gold nugget, man. I see. You taught me something, Gary. Well, we talked a little bit about some of the changes we've seen in the VHS tapes and whatnot. Let's go the other direction and talk about the future. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but if you did have a crystal ball, what would you guess? What would be some of the changes you think home inspections may change in the future?
Well, if you follow the historical trend, it's clearly technology.
Right.
It's clearly technology. I remember back when we first started inspections, we were using Polaroid cameras, right, and we were stapling them to our inspection reports, and that was actually a USP that our reports come with photos.
Stapled on. And they were $1 a shot too, man. So if
you're
out of focus, dude, that cost you $1.
I did an inspection, I guess it was last year now, on a single wide trailer way out in the country. Mm-hmm. And the seller was there. She was a widow in her probably early 80s. And it was just her and I, and I was doing a photo review for my own well-being at the end of the inspection.
Right.
And she slid up beside me, and she said, she slid her glasses down her nose. She said, is that a picture of my house? And I said, yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh.
And she shook her head and she said, you developed the film that fast?
Oh, man. Wow.
I actually didn't know what to say.
That's a good story. Gary. Well, I got another little story for you. I had a Polaroid too, right? And I forget what they were. $19, $29, something like that. And you bought the film. It was like $10 for $1. Well, I think it's the thing now on Instagram or whatever. My daughter wants one. You know how much those daggone things cost now?
No.
You buy them retro for $180, Gary.
Wow.
$180. There's a market for them. I'm like, I was like, I wish I could find mine. I think I paid like $19 for it. I don't know where it is.
Well, I remember, didn't the film have a shelf life on it?
I think so. I mean, the film cost almost as much as the camera. The
right.
camera didn't cost that much, but the film.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember the commercial. Remember they would take a picture and they would drop it in the fish tank and it would still develop. I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. So anyway, now that I thoroughly got us off track. Well, Gary, have you ever been thrown under the bus by a contractor? I know I have. How do you handle it? Do you have any ideas how it could be? I don't think it could ever be prevented, but at least controlled or contained. So what's your theory on the contractor throwing us under the bus?
Well, I find that when I'm on an inspection, and I train my guys this too, that when I'm on an inspection with a contractor, it really helps to engage with that contractor and recognize them as a professional of their specific trade.
Right.
You know, we may agree or agree to disagree, but as inspectors, we have to remember that we are generalists.
Right.
And like a family doctor who should yield to the expert opinion of the cardiologist.
Sure.
You know, and I'll tell you, the other trait that I look for and groom in my inspectors is the ability for one to put their pride aside, admit an error, or just be open to another opinion.
Right.
Because I find that people recognize and respect this.
Yeah. Leave your ego at the door. And I heard a definition of ego this weekend. Ego is edging God out. So.
Wow, good one.
Leave that ego at the door. Good stuff, Gary.
Well, you know, as to how we prevent this, I think there are just too many contractors and companies out there that are out of our control or influence.
Right.
We can only be responsible for us.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I tell you, the problem I have is, you know, they get a contractor out there and he's opportunistic. You know, he's trying to turn a $400 job into a $4,000 job, or vice versa, or you know, and sometimes he opens up a wall and there's a whole bunch of damage there, and you know, oh my gosh, your inspector, but there's no way, you know, and not all contractors are like this. I mean, the good ones will say, you know, there's no way your inspector could have seen this, but I hate that when they say your inspector should have caught this. You know, they don't know the standards of practice, and you know, we can't open up a wall. We don't own the house, so anyway.
Right.
I know I'm preaching to the choir.
Well, I think that, you know, for our clients, setting the expectation at the inspection,
right,
having a solid inspection agreement, the necessary insurance, and the business defenses to protect the company. But here's what I've learned, that inspectors and contractors are like, they're like lions and hyenas on the Serengeti.
I've never heard that. That makes sense.
You know, we both coexist, but yet we have different skill sets and experiences. And I find that when I'm on an inspection with a contractor, it's really better to engage with the contractor and that sort of thing. But it's something that, you know, we're not going to prevent.
Right.
But it is what it is.
I hear you. Well, while we're on the topic of conflict, let me go ahead and get this unpleasant one out of the way, but I do want to get your opinion on it. I'm bothered sometimes by what I see on home inspector forums. Speaking of egos, it seems like some egos get going and negativity starts flowing. You know, I feel like we're all here to help each other and what's best for the profession. I see one or two things. Sometimes it's like, you know, there's a newer person and they're asking a question. And a lot of times there's helpful people, but then there's some people with egos that just want to make them feel small. And then the other thing I see, and you might see this, dude, if you,
I mean, there's people who are single-man operations, and there's nothing wrong with that. I did it for years. You did it for years. And there's days when I think I still wish I had that. There's nothing wrong with that. But some of those people feel, some, not all, feel like you've traded in, quality for quantity. And that's not necessarily true. My example is, hey, there's two restaurants. One's got a lot of people and one hasn't hardly anybody, and you're hungry in a new town. Which one are you going to?
Right.
You're going to the one that's busy because you have social proof. And, my response to that is, you wouldn't stay busy if you weren't putting out a good product. They're not necessarily mutually exclusive. And that gets me going a little bit, because, I've been called the realtor's lackey. I'm on the realtor's leash and yada, yada. Look, we can be good to the client and smart to the realtor. I mean, it's possible. But anyway, I'm getting off on the thing. What do you think about the forums? Is there a way we can keep it positive? What's your opinion about it?
Well, some of the forums, I'm a member of many of them. Some of them have moderators to kind of keep some controlled chaos in there. But and I've tried to genuinely contribute to my fellow inspectors, only to be chastised myself. And, it could be downright personal and disheartening and really just non-productive.
Right.
I see some inspectors on there with literally tens of thousands of posts that they've made, and it makes you wonder about their dialogue and interactions with the general public.
Right.
And what is the well-being and expected growth of their company if they're interacting with their fellow inspectors that way? Here's my thoughts on it. Energy can be contagious. It could be positive or negative.
Right.
And I made a personal commitment that I'm going to be mindful of what and who I'm allowing into my space.
Sure.
I'd rather invest
and physically.
Right. I'd rather invest my time with someone like yourself and other like-minded business owners who want to progress their companies forward in a positive manner.
Right. No, I'm with you. And I do want to say there's some good people on those forums too. Not everybody. I mean, there are some really good people and they want to help each other.
Right.
I just get disheartened when I see somebody, and it's like they jump on somebody for no reason. Like, well, that's not necessary. But anyway, let's move on from that. On a lighter note, but now remember, this is a G-rated show here with this question in mind. What is the wildest or craziest or weirdest thing you've ever found on a home inspection?
Okay, G-rated, right?
Yeah, G-rated.
All right. I can think of two actually that come to mind. I had the pleasure of serving a sergeant in the military, a female that was purchasing a home for herself. It was a foreclosed house in a planned bedroom community, and I was part of what we do is education, not just finding flaws, but education. So I invited her to go to the attic with me to see where the air filter was, so she would know how to do that and that sort of thing. And she said, "Well, I'd love to do that, but I'm afraid of heights." I said, "I thought you people jump out of helicopters and stuff." Mm-hmm. She said, "Not me. I've got an admin job." So I said, "Well," I'll take pictures for you, and we'll talk about it at the review. Right. So I went up there, and I spent a good bit of time up there, and she shouted, she said, "Gary, you okay up there?" I said, Yeah, I think so. I'm just trying to piece this all together." And what it was, there was a trellis up there, and like a watering system. There was a trouble light with a green bulb in it. There was some incense.
I know what's going on.
There was a lookout tower so that the person could look through the gable vent and see who's coming down the subdivision. It was a marijuana grow operation.
Nice. Sound like a pretty nice one too.
And somebody had left that behind, and she said, "Well, what do I do with that?" I said, "Well, I don't know if you consider that a feature of the house, but I would request that it be removed."
Right.
And I said the second thing I would do is I would make contact with the local police department and have a canine brought over here.
Right.
Because did they leave anything behind? And she didn't want to assume that liability.
Sure.
The second thing that there's two areas that really don't set well with me, and that's domestic violence and animal abuse.
Sure.
And I just kind of made it a personal pact of mine that if I ever saw any evidence of that I have a moral and community responsibility to report that. And
Sure.
I was at a house with a client, and there were 8 pit bulls chained in the backyard. They were, when I went in the back yard, they weren't like wagging their tails. They were snapping at those chains. And so, we finished that. We went on the inside, and the buyer said, "Well, look at that." And so I turned, and it was a treadmill. And he said, "I just can't believe that." I said, "No, I don't get on those things." But he said, "No, look at it." He said, "It's been modified," and that's where they hook the dog and turn the machine on for an extended period of time. And those dogs that have good stamina, they survive. The others that don't get pitched.
They fight them, or they were fighting the dog.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And so, I called animal control and gave them the address, and I said, when can I expect some feedback on, your investigation? They said, "Call us back in 6 weeks." I said, "Really? 6 weeks? They're going to be gone in 6 weeks. They're moving out." Yeah. And so, unfortunately, that's the dirty side of the business. We don't want to see that, and it's really much more of an exception than the norm. But yeah, it's unfortunate. That's part of our society, and both of those were, and like I said, planned bedroom communities that you really wouldn't expect it.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. We're big animal lovers in my house, and I can't understand why anybody would be mean to somebody who basically can't fight back. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's wrong from every sense of the word.
Right.
Well, Gary, do you have a training or an internet or a resource or marketing resource or an app or something that you would recommend or be willing to share with everybody?
One thing I'm sort of stuck on right now, and you may know this already, and the listeners may know it, but there's a website called Duct Tape Marketing.
Yeah.
DuctTapeMarketing.com. They got a really active blog. They've got free ebooks. There's courses you can take. In fact, they have a podcast. I'm sure it's not as good as this one, but they have a podcast.
I hear you. Yeah.
So that's what I'm into now. DuctTapeMarketing.com.
No, I've listened to their podcast. They have some good ideas. Well, good. Cool. Yeah. Well, Gary, what is the best part of your job and why? And what's the worst part of your job and why?
Well, I want to, focus on the best part because we want to be positive. But
sure.
I'll tell you what, the biggest reward for me is to do a technical inspection, gather that information, pass that information along to the clients so that they can make an intelligent decision for their family.
Right.
And I tell my inspectors routinely, look, every outlet, every window, every door, everything matters. Our clients are not buying a loaf of bread.
Sure.
This is a big, important investment, and so we really need to be on point with it. The reward for that is the hugs at the end, the vigorous handshakes, and the accolades that we've done a good job.
Yeah, I tell all my folks that this is most people's dream. This is the American dream, and you're getting to be a part of it. I mean, that's pretty exciting stuff,
Sure. Yeah. The worst part of the job is when you get into a house. I did a house a couple of years ago. The young family was buying the home, 3 kids. It was on, I think it was 8 or 10 acres, something like that. I'm not exaggerating. 2,000 square foot house on a basement. Mm-hmm. I was not exaggerating. I was there for 9 hours doing the inspection.
Oh my gosh!
And it was one of these situations where I couldn't just work to the point where I felt like they got their $350 worth or whatever the charge was.
Sure.
The more I inspected, the more I found. So,
right.
The mold was so bad. I wore a respirator, and at one point I just stepped outside and took my respirator off because I just felt like mold spores were all over my skin and my clothes. And the gentleman, he said, "How's it going?" And I said, "Well, I think we need to have a kind of a review. I'm not done." He said, "No." He said, "What's going on?" I said, "Well, there's advanced mold in the house." Mm-hmm. And he said, "Okay." He said, "You see that oak tree right there? that's where I'm going to set up my deer stand and pick them off as they come off the meadow.
What?
and I said, well, can we talk about the house? Oh, yeah. How about the barn? You been to the barn yet? I said, no. He said, I want to show you where I'm going to put my engine hoist. And I'll never forget that inspection. It's one thing if a family goes into a purchase like that and they have repair funds set aside to absorb those costs.
Right.
But, I never get that personal with the clients, but I really worried for them that they were buying an emotion, and
right.
133 problems is what that house ended up being.
They didn't realize what they were biting off more than they could chew.
So, I almost felt like a surgeon that, has to make that long walk to the waiting room and say, you know what, we worked for 8 hours and we used all of our technology and training and tools, but the operation was not successful. I mean, that's how I felt.
No, I've had those too.
We have a fiduciary responsibility to tell the truth, just like a doctor when he throws, his X-rays up on the wall. You want him to be forthright and transparent with everything that he says, because that's your health on the wall.
Right. Now, that situation may have been different if the guy you were selling it to was a experienced contractor, who could handle that and had handled that, and had the resources or the expertise to, take care of it. That would have been,
right.
I've done the same thing. You're inspected, and like you said, I don't get that far into it, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out these people don't have a whole lot of resources of any kind, and this this house is going to require a lot of resources,
right?
And it may not be the best choice for them,
The other thing too is we never know who we're going to get to meet during the course of inspections. I did a inspection for a gentleman. He was a senior citizen, and I happened to notice on his license plate a Purple Heart.
Oh wow!
And so I went in there and I asked him. I said, who earned the Purple Heart? And he said, well, I did. And he was very humble about it. And I said, it's really an honor to be working for you. And I already started thinking in my head, what can I do for this gentleman who serves his country? And his wife stepped in. She said, well, the truth is my husband earned 2 Purple Hearts. I said, oh
wow.
my gosh! I said, you know what? Today's inspection is complimentary.
Yeah, that's awesome. We did that on Veterans Day one day. I mean, it wasn't like a Purple Heart person, but it was just one of my inspectors made the conscientious decision on Veterans Day. So since then, I've given them 2 free inspections each that they can give away a year at their discretion, and I will still pay them to do them.
Nice.
Depending on the situation. But no, that's awesome, Gary, that you did that. That is awesome. Well, I've just got. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I've just got 2 questions left, and I'm sorry I kept you so long, but man, you have really. I know the listeners are going to appreciate it. You've really dropped some gold nuggets. Last 2 questions. If you had to move to a brand new town equal to the size of the one where you live now, and you had to start all over, room and board are already taken care of, and you still have all of your same equipment and knowledge, and you have $5,000. So basically you have everything you have, it's just you don't know anybody, and you've got to market this new area. So what are you going to do with that $5,000?
Okay. Being in business for a number of years now, the amount seems pretty small, but
yeah.
I guess starting out, that you got to be calculated in your spending. I'd probably go with a graphics designer first, and then a reasonable website for probably $1,000 or something like that. I'd get some embroidered apparel. One of my mentors years ago, he said, you know what, if you're going to be in the game, you got to wear the uniform.
Right.
And then I'd hook up with a business coach who knows the industry. There's one out there that has an introductory offer for, I think, $39 for the first month, and then it goes up accordingly. But, I'd design a marketing plan and a business plan with defined goals and deadlines, and I'd measure and adjust as needed. It makes me think in 2014 there was a certain professional football team that lost more games than they won. And despite a losing record of 7-8-1, I believe, the Panthers captured. Wait a minute.
I should have seen that one, Gary. We're having technical difficulty, guys. Gary, just cut it in. We won the division with a losing record. But
yes,
you
won the division with the losing record.
You guys are in that division. We kept trying to lose that division. You kept giving it back to us.
You know, but it really makes me think having a plan is critical. And if you were to interview the staff for the Panthers this year, likely they're going to change their plan.
Right.
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 So the other thing I'd do is I'd take $400 and I'd hire 20 sales reps.
Oh wow.
And how, you might ask?
I started to say, how are you doing out with $400?
Yeah. Here's what I do. I join a local business networking group for the following reasons.
Okay.
I need to get to know more people in the area.
Right.
And I heard a statistic years ago that said 1 out of every 135 people in America is a realtor.
Say that again? One
out of every 135 people in America is a realtor.
Wow.
And if you think about that, think back when you weren't in home inspections, but almost everybody knows a realtor,
sure.
Church or school or whatever.
Right.
So, I need to get to know who those people are.
Sure.
This business format, this networking I'm talking about, will give you much more needed exposure to a group, which does what? It polishes your presentation skills.
Sure.
And if the group fully understands its roles and responsibilities, they're each promoting your service.
Right.
Hence, 20 sales reps in a 20-person group.
Oh, got it. And most of those groups, like you said, I think, if I'm not mistaken, don't you have to, like, every so often present in front of them?
You do. You do. Yep.
Cool.
The other things I'd do, I'd become a vendor partner with a real estate agency, and not just become a vendor partner, but actually get engaged in their functions and charity events.
Sure.
And I've made that mistake before. Sign up and don't show up.
Right.
And that's not good. I've become an affiliate member of the local real estate board. I would even, this is really creative thinking, but I'd hire an affordable service to provide creative marketing messages that I could put on flyers to grab attention and promote the company.
Hey, I think I know a place you might can find that.
And once the money starts coming in, then you can open up your targets to include direct mail, mortgage brokers, and attorneys, and have a stronger internet presence and so forth.
Sure. Oh, I'm totally with you, Gary. You and I we sing out the same hymn book. Well, the last and final question. I've kept you so long. Is there anything, Gary, that I should have asked you that I didn't?
No. Well, what's your hiring process? I kind of want to share about our hiring process and what that looks like.
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead.
What we do is we start with a quick office interview, and that's conducted by our staff.
Okay.
And, we have some really interesting applicants that we have nicknames for. One was called the Traveling Gypsy. I think I interviewed that person. They must come Charlotte. One was the Singing Cowboy. We had several, but so that's the first. If they get past the office staff, then they move to the second interview, and that's where we get together. We have I think it's 10 carefully chosen questions. There's usually 3 of us conducting the interview, and we put these questions in what we call a matrix. And we assign point values, and then, how well or how poorly the candidate responds, they get a point value, and we just simply tally up the points.
Oh, I like it. Now, are they weighted like certain categories?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Cool.
Yeah. And then also what we've added is a writing assignment. I want to see how they write.
That's not a bad idea.
It's back to being in the field versus communication.
I have hired guys before because they were really good in the interview, and then they start writing reports. They can't write a freaking complete sentence.
I know.
I'm like, dude, you cannot turn this into a realtor, and you don't have and a buyer, with nothing but clauses. I mean, dude, you gotta have a verb, a subject, a verb, and a predicate.
Yeah. And then the next thing we do is we take the inspector on a ride along, and that includes a free lunch.
Okay.
And the reason we include the free lunch is I'm observing how they interact with the waitress and, out in general public. Are they respectful? Are they, that type of thing. Then we have the candidate provide a criminal background, and that they can get that at the local sheriff's department in our area. It's $15.
Okay.
And we want to see their driving history record as well.
Let me ask you something, Gary, and I know you're going on. I don't mean to mess up your chief.
Sure.
Let's say they did something a long time ago, maybe a DUI, but back in college or something. Are you forgiving about that, or what? How do you stand on something? I mean, obviously there's some things that are, a sex crime or something would definitely be a no-go.
Well, that's actually happened to us. We were about to bring a incredible candidate on board, great interpersonal skills, very motivated. He asked what was required, and I said, well, we do a deep criminal background investigation. And he goes, well, how deep?
The red flag went off right there.
Of course, I said it goes back to birth. I think
your kindergarten teacher.
I think it's 5 years, but he said, well, I was wrongfully accused of child molestation.
Oh my gosh.
And
I mean, I don't know how to. I mean, I don't. That's just bad all the way around.
I said, here's the deal. I said, I believe over the course of history, people have been wrongfully accused. I believe that.
Sure.
But here's the situation. Our inspectors are in houses supervised and unsupervised.
Right.
And there are things that we can pardon, and there are things that we can't. Unfortunately, this one we can't.
Yeah, I'm with you. I couldn't get past that. A DUI 20 years ago would have been okay with me, but any kind of sex crime, I can't. And I'm sorry you were wrongfully accused, but if something ever happened, I mean, the fact that you overlooked that, or not overlooked it, that's probably not the right word, but I mean, I just, I'm sorry, but I can't get past that.
Right.
Well, what was the rest of your process? I'm sorry, I got you all.
Oh, and then we take the inspector on a second ride along. We want to make sure that inspector is not afraid of bugs, not afraid of heights,
right.
That is not claustrophobic. So that's the second ride along. And then we have them do an online personality test.
Which one do you use?
We use Right Path 4 and Right Path 6.
Okay.
There's others out there, Miggs or Myers-Briggs.
But
what I'm looking for is a certain pattern that most of the inspectors have.
Okay.
And what I'm really looking for, and they'll help you, that particular company will help you interpret the results and make sure, because what's important to me, Preston, is I got to have harmony on the team.
Sure.
And then we perform a final interview, and they're encouraged to bring a key influencer of their choice.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to say, like, wife or something like that.
Yep, and we call it a key influencer because we want to be open to, everyone.
If there's crazy in that tree, you want to know it.
We had one candidate, he actually brought his mom.
Really? Cool.
Yep.
Cool. Oh, that's cool, man. I like it.
And
good stuff.
And then, of course, we start the, if everything's a go, then we start the 90-day probationary period. Because here's what I tell them. You need to be interviewing us just as hard as we're interviewing you.
Right. Have you come, we've been through that 90 days, and most of them make it. I mean, if they were approved for the first part, but we've had some that made it to 90 days, and we just we both need to see to there. Have you had that too?
Yeah, we had. I hired he was actually a former builder, and he was in the probationary period, and I went to visit him on an inspection, and I caught him on the back side of the roof in the valley, shaking, uncontrollably shaking.
Oh man, he's scared of heights.
And I said, "Are you doing a harmonic test on the structure?" And he wouldn't respond. I actually had to talk him down.
Wow. Well, it's good you came, though, because something bad might have happened there.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
It is a requirement for the job. He needs an admin job or something.
Actually, he's a paramedic now.
Oh, cool. Hey, I was going to add something when you said you test for bugs. The guy who trained me, and I passed it down, unfortunately, he would train me, and he had a rubber snake. And he would drop that thing. We're crawling into crawl space. Scare the poop out of me. And, as soon as I started training people, I bought me a rubber snake. I'm like, let me see how you react to this. So, fortunately, they all passed. But anyway. Well, Gary, you have been more than gracious with your time. I'm sure everybody has gotten a lot of golden nuggets. A couple of things here. We want to get you some likes on Facebook. What's your Facebook business page? So if anybody out there listening got some nuggets from this, go give him some likes. What's your Facebook business page?
It's actually Discovery Inspections.
Discovery Inspections.
Yep.
Cool. Well, if there's anybody who wants to find out more about you or get in touch with you, how could they? Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely. Really, the best way to get a hold of me is through our office, and they know exactly. I have a real wife and I have 3 office wives, so they all know where I am and control my agenda. So really, that's the secret. Just call the office 678-364-1111, and that's 678-364-1111. But I would like to ask you one more question, if it's okay to ask the interviewer.
Sure. Actually, that was one on there. Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah. Do you? I know that you've got a very successful home inspection operation in Charlotte that has deservedly earned a respected reputation. Are you planning to branch out to the Atlanta area?
No. No, not at all. I was going to ask you if you're planning to branch out to the Charlotte area. No,
okay.
No,
all right. So we have a mutual agreement then, yes?
Yeah, it's on tape. It's on tape. It's definitely on tape.
All right.
But we do have I got something coming down the pike. Nothing like that, but I'll let you know about it, and I'll let everybody else know about it. We're coming out with a that we are going to offer out there to everybody. We have got a contract now with a very large builder here in Charlotte, the largest one in Charlotte, where we do all their pre-inspections. But they want it. It's not your normal inspection. What they're trying to do is quality control on their subs. So by trial and error, we have developed the software that's proprietary to us that does that, just that. And they love it. We do all, like I said, they're basically outsourcing all of their pre-inspections and quality control. And what I want to get to at some point is where we can offer that to other inspectors throughout the country. So you can go to builders in your market and say, hey, I've got a way to save you time and money. Because with them, that's what it's about. It's pie charts and graphs, and show them how you can save them money, and you'll get their business. That's all there is to it. So I am planning to offer that to other people eventually when we get it perfected. But I am staying in Charlotte, I promise. All right, Gary. Well, thank you so much for your time. In your website, is it discoveryinspections.com?
It's actually Discovery Inspectors, ORS, discoveryinspectors.com.
Discoveryinspectors.com. All right, well, check out his website and go to his Facebook, Discovery Inspections, and give Gary some likes. And, Gary, we'll catch you on the flip side.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Preston.
All right, Gary, have a good one.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks for checking out the Successful Home Inspector podcast. You can find show links at thesuccessfulhomeinspector.com. Check out the website for special offers, information, and other resources. Thanks again for listening to the Successful Home Inspector podcast. And remember to check back for new episodes. The Successful Home Inspector podcast is brought to you by Preston Sandlin and Home Inspection Carolina.